You are not standing in front of a painting. You are standing before a silent judgment. What you are seeing was not created to be quickly understood, nor to be admired. It was created to be endured, to force you to look at something you would normally prefer to deny. This image does not speak of the human body as beauty, nor of nudity as art. It speaks of the body as guilt, as warning, as a sign that something irreversible has begun. The figure standing before you is not posing. She is not calm. She is not in control. She is rigid, trapped in a precise moment that cannot be undone. Her posture is uncomfortable, tense, almost unnatural, not because she is tired, but because she is awake to something she never asked to understand. This is the moment when innocence dies without blood. The color of her skin is unnatural. It is yellowish, sickly, as if the flesh were under the wrong kind of light. It is not the light of day, nor the light of home. It is a light that recalls exposure, interrogation, punishment. In religious tradition, light does not always save. Sometimes it reveals, and revelation, when you are not ready, is a form of violence. The body is not idealized. There is no pride in it, no celebration. It exists as an unavoidable fact, like a sentence already pronounced. Throughout the history of Christianity, the body has always been a battlefield between the divine and the corrupt. Here, that conflict does not explode, it turns inward. The face is crucial. It does not express pleasure, curiosity, or rebellion. It expresses shame, but not social shame. A deeper, older shame. The shame of existing inside a body that has begun to desire, to change, to betray the idea of purity. It is the same expression found in biblical stories when humanity becomes aware of its nakedness, not because it was not naked before, but because now it understands what that means. And then the shadow appears. It does not enter. It does not move. It was already there. The shadow does not correspond to any real source of light. It does not obey the logic of space. It is too large, too dark, too close. It is not a shadow cast by the body. It is a shadow that watches the body. It has no face, but it has intention. It has no form, but it has weight. In religious iconography, evil rarely appears as a monster. It appears as a constant presence, as conscience, as surveillance, as the sensation that you are no longer alone with yourself. This shadow does not represent another person. It represents the moment when the individual begins to look at themselves through the eyes of judgment, the moment when inherited morality, learned guilt, the idea of sin, settle inside the mind. It is the voice that says, "This is wrong," even before understanding why. The space surrounding the figure is not a bedroom, nor a room, nor a home. It is a closed void, a kind of emotional cell. There are no objects to distract, no symbols of comfort, only oppressive walls, stained with reddish and brown tones that evoke flesh, blood, the visceral, as if the external world had vanished, and only the interior of the body remained. And the mind, there is no refuge here, there is no escape. The painting does not show sin, it shows the fear of sin, a fear that for centuries was instilled as part of growing up. The idea that maturing is not just changing, but falling, that desire is a crack, that the body is a trap, that something dark is always waiting behind awakening.edv. Edvard Munch did not paint this from a distance. He painted it from internal experience, from a mind obsessed with guilt, religion, death, and fear. For him, puberty was not a natural step, it was a psychological wound. A moment in which the individual stops belonging to the safe world of childhood and enters a zone where everything is ambiguous, dangerous, and watched. That is why the figure does not cry, does not scream, does not rebel. Because true terror does not need noise. True terror is understanding that something inside you has changed and that there is no ritual that can reverse it, no confession sufficient, no way back. The shadow will not disappear. It will grow with you. It will adapt. It will whisper. And over time, you will stop knowing whether it comes from outside or from within. This painting was not made to be hung as decoration. It was made as an uncomfortable mirror, one that does not reflect the body, but inherited guilt, learned fear, the spiritual burden placed upon flesh at the exact moment it ceases to be innocent. When you finish looking at this work, something changes, because you realize the figure is not trapped inside the painting. The moment it represents, we have all lived it, and the shadow still walks with us. And the most disturbing thing is not what the painting shows, it is what it does not show, but suggests. Because after that first instant, after awakening, after shame, after the appearance of the shadow, something even more silent begins. Constant surveillance. The figure appears alone, but she is not. She never is. The shadow does not project outward. It leans toward her, as if listening, as if waiting for the next impure thought, the next involuntary desire, the next impulse that confirms guilt. In many religious traditions, sin does not begin with the act, but with intention, with thought, with mental imagery. This painting captures the precise moment when the mind becomes dangerous territory, when even closing your eyes no longer guarantees peace. The figure knows this. That is why her posture is rigid, not a bodily posture, but a moral one. The body is tense because the mind is alert, because it has learned that relaxation is lowering one's guard, and lowering one's guard allows the shadow to advance, and the shadow always advances. If you look closely, you will notice the figure is illuminated while the shadow remains in darkness. This inversion is crucial. In Christian tradition, light reveals truth. But here, truth does not liberate. Here, truth exposes. The light does not protect the figure. It leaves her naked before an invisible judgment. The shadow does not need light, because it does not need to be seen. Its power lies in existing without clear form, without definition, as a constant threat that can never be directly confronted. This is the kind of fear you all cannot point at. The reddish background is not accidental. It is not decorative. It refers to the organic, the internal, what normally remains hidden beneath the skin, as if the external world had vanished and the scene were unfolding inside a body, or worse, inside a consciousness. There is no sky, no ground, no horizon. Only a closed space that presses in, that confines, that offers no escape. This is not a physical place, it is a mental state. Puberty, in this context, is not growth, it is exile. Exile from childhood, banishment from a state where the body had no moral meaning, where existence did not imply guilt, where nudity was not a question. Now it is, and every line of the body seems aware of it. There is no fluidity, no naturalness. Everything is slightly distorted, as if the body did not yet know how to inhabit itself, as if it were a new suit, uncomfortable, dangerous, a body that is no longer refuge, but evidence, evidence that something has changed forever. Religion, for centuries, taught that this change must be watched, controlled, repressed, that the body must be subdued before it drags the soul down with it. This painting does not preach that idea. It exposes it by showing its psychological consequences. Constant fear, obsessive the sensation that even standing still can be suspicious. The figure does not move because movement would imply decision, and decision would imply responsibility, and responsibility, at this moment, is terrifying. That is why the silence is so heavy. This work does not scream, dramatize, or exaggerate. Its horror is clinical, precise, cold, the kind of horror that does not disappear when the lights go out, the kind that installs itself as an inner voice that follows you for years. The shadow, if you think about it carefully, is not behind the body, it is inside the space, as if it had been there before the figure arrived, as if this place had always been a site of judgment, waiting for someone to cross that inevitable threshold, as if every human being, upon growing up, were led into the same invisible room to confront their new condition, the condition of being conscious, the condition of desiring, the condition of carrying it. And here is where the painting becomes truly unsettling, because it shows no exit. There is no gesture of redemption, no promise of forgiveness, no symbol of hope, only a body that has awakened too early to a system of guilt far too ancient. And perhaps that is the most terrifying thing of all, that this scene does not belong to the past. It is not a psychological relic of another era. It is a repeating pattern, an inherited wound, a shadow that changes shape, but not function. In the end, when you step away from the painting, a question remains suspended in the air, unanswered, without comfort. Did the shadow appear because the body changed, or was the body always destined to live beneath that shadow? And when that question settles in your mind, the painting has fulfilled its purpose, because you are no longer looking at the artwork. The artwork is looking at you, and when you believe everything has been said, when you think you finally understand the painting, something more dangerous happens. You recognize it. Because the figure is no longer just an image frozen on canvas. It begins to feel familiar, not because of her face, but because of her sensation. That discomfort you cannot explain. That blurred memory of a moment when something changed without permission. A moment when the body stopped being neutral and began to be observed, judged, interpreted. The painting does not need movement to remain alive. It breathes in silence. It activates when you remember, when you doubt, when you feel shame without a clear reason, when a shadow appears even in the most intimate moments and you wonder whether it is acceptable to feel what you feel. That is when you understand the shadow was never confined to the canvas. The shadow is the legacy. It is the invisible inheritance of centuries of fear, sermons, whispered warnings, promised punishments. It is the idea that the body is a threat, that desire is a flaw, that growing is not blooming, but slowly falling into something that must be controlled. The figure remains motionless because she has already learned the lesson. She needs no chains. She needs no guards. The surveillance now comes from within, and that is the most terrifying thing of all. When punishment no longer requires an executioner, the closed room is not a physical place. It is the state of living with internalized guilt, when every thought is examined, every impulse questioned, when even silence feels suspicious. There are no visible bars, yet there is no exit. The painting offers no redemption, because it does not promise any. There is no absolution here, only acknowledgement, the recognition that some wounds do not bleed, but never heal, that some shadows are not cast, but weigh heavily, that some moments in human life do not mark the beginning of something new, but the end of something pure. And perhaps that is the most uncomfortable truth of all, that there is no return, that innocence is not recovered, that once consciousness awakens, it never fully sleeps again. The figure will remain there, eternally frozen in that precise second when the body became a problem and the mind became a judge. But you will not. You will continue. You will move forward. You will grow, and you will carry the shadow with you, because this painting was not created to be seen once. It was created to reappear in memory, to seep into nocturnal thoughts, to whisper uncomfortable questions when no one else is listening. It does not chase you. It does not threaten you. It does not scream. It only reminds you that there was a moment in your life when something broke in silence, and that, since then, you have never been completely alone inside yourself. When you turn off the video, when you close your eyes, when the sound disappears, the painting does not leave, that it remains. Not on the wall, not on the canvas. But in that exact place where the shadow learned to live with you. And there, it will keep waiting.